Okay, hello and welcome to the seventh virtual history of 2021, presented by Baltimore Architecture Foundation and Baltimore Heritage. This is Nathan Denny's Associate Director of the Baltimore Architecture Foundation. First, thank you to everyone who donated to be with us today. Your support is crucial to keeping the virtual history series going as we continue to weather out the pandemic. And before I turn it over to our presenters, I wanted to also announce what we have coming up next week, which is a presentation with the Baltimore Museum of Industry and the Neighborhood Design Center about how Baltimore designers are making public spaces safer during the pandemic. It should be a good one, and that is next Friday at 1 p.m. and registration is still open. And now I'll turn it over to our co-host today, of Friends of Maryland's Olmsted Parks and Landscapes, represented by Jennifer Robinson, their current president.
Thank you so much, Nathan. So we are with the Friends of Maryland's Olmsted Parks and Landscapes, and we're fondly known as FMOPL. And we were established in 1986 to advance the Olmsted legacy and its relevance across the state of Maryland through advocacy, education, and preservation. And we're really excited because we are going to be joining with the National Association of Olmsted Parks to kick off a nationwide celebration that leads up to the bicentennial of Frederick Law Olmsted's birth in April of 1822. So that's going to be next year, next April 2022. We are also teaming up with the Baltimore Architecture Foundation and Baltimore Heritage to give another virtual history presentation in April on Patterson Park, which is near and dear to my heart because my day job is with the Friends of Patterson Park. So we're excited to partner on that. Please make sure to keep an eye out for other upcoming events on our website, which will be posted in the chat. Today's presentation on the Olmsted's vision for Wyman Park and the Stony Run Stream Valley will be given by Sandy Sparks and Jillian Storms. Sandy was the founding president of the Friends of Maryland's Olmsted Parks and Landscapes and continues on the board to this day. A strong believer in the value of stakeholder-based parks friends groups, Sandy launched the Friends of Wyman Park Dell in 1983. She didn't stop there. The Friends of Mount Vernon Place in 2000, the Friends of Stony Run in 2011, and most recently, the Friends of the Jones Falls in 2019. She remains an active leader in the Charles Village neighborhood where she's lived since 1966. And Jillian Storms is an architect with the School Facilities Branch of the Maryland State Department of Education and once served on the board of directors and the inventory committee for FMOPL. She is a former president of the Baltimore Architecture Foundation and now serves as the co-chair of its research committee, the Dead Architects Society. If you have questions, we encourage you to put them in the Q&A box, which is at the bottom of your screen, just to the right of the normal chat box. And we'll get to as many of those as we can at the end of the presentation. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Sandy. Take it away, Sandy.
Thank you. Wyman Park and Stony Run Parks run north to south in the center of the city. Stony Run Stream is a tributary of the Jones Falls, and its watershed drains an area roughly bounded by Greenmount Avenue on the east, Roland Avenue on the west, Lake Avenue to the north. Johns Hopkins, Loyola, and Notre Dame universities, plus many schools, are located near the Stony Run. FLO Senior, as shown in the painting to the right, was most famous for Central and Prospect Parks in New York, the Capitol grounds in DC, Niagara Falls, and Yosemite Park. His two sons carried on the legacy of the firm he started in Brookline, Massachusetts, renaming it the Olmsted Brothers in 1896. John Charles, his stepson, helped design the grounds of Roland Park, but primarily took responsibility for the firm's work in the Western US. FLO Jr., known as Rick, was 12 years younger and helped found the American Planning Association. In the 1880s, FLO Sr. designed Mount Vernon Squares, and the Sudbrook residential neighborhood. The Olmsted Brothers carried on the work of the firm in Baltimore with over 40 projects until the 1950s, and you can see a list of their primary projects on this page. In the 1880s, FLO Sr., I already said that, designed Mount Vernon Squares and Sudbrook residential neighborhood. The Olmsted Brothers carried on the work of the firm in Baltimore with over, oh, I'm sorry, my apologies, I'm on the wrong page. In 1902, the Municipal Art Society commissioned the Olmsted Brothers to prepare a comprehensive plan for the development of the city beyond its downtown grid. The report recommended development of the three major stream valleys, Gwynns Falls on the west, Jones Falls, and Herring Run on the east, incorporating the large estate parks into a park system with connecting parkways. Those are listed on this page. Here we have actual pages about the Stony Run Valley in the 1904 report. The report notes, with its old beech trees and bold topography, Wyman Park is the finest single passage of scenery in the whole valley. FMOPL reprinted the report to coincide with the 1987 ASLA National Conference in Baltimore. The report includes 3 pull-out maps.
Okay, I'm unmuted. You can hear me? All right. What existed in the valley at the time the Olmsted Brothers began their work can be seen in this 1894 topographical map, where they outline the possible park boundaries. The Olmsted Archives have an album of their 1905 survey photographs, 2 of which we show on this slide. In the upper right is a stone quarry they found of interest with a view over the valley. The Hopkins, Carnegie Institute, and garage sit on top of this site today. In the lower left is a view south over the valley from the Huntington Avenue Viaduct, a 250-foot-long trestle built in 1893 to carry electric cars from Remington neighborhood over here to the growing Hamden community on this side of the valley. Running parallel to the viaduct is Remington Avenue, which connected on the top of a huge earth berm built in 1874. It connected to Hamden. And it ended up dividing the north and south of the valley. The concrete, this concrete box culvert here is which allowed the passage of the Maryland-Pennsylvania Railroad steam trains, affectionately called the Mom Paw, which used the valley for the route north from the city. So roughly down here where the station is and up the valley. Oh, sorry. It's a touchy little dial, my cursor, so sorry about that. You'll get little snaps, little snippets of interest coming in the future. That's what will happen. In his will, Johns Hopkins left his Clifton estate, which was northeast of Baltimore, to the university for its new campus. However, the 1893 recession depleted available funds to develop the site, and the university found temporary headquarters in buildings along Howard Street. The Hopkins Hospital complex is seen here on the east side of the city. Several landowners saw the opportunity to bring the prestigious university to their neck of the woods and pulled together 180 acres of land in 1902, with the caveat that 40 acres be set aside for a park. One such owner was William Wyman, a board member of Johns Hopkins University who owned the former Homewood house and estate of Charles Carroll and was keen on preserving the mature woods seen here next to a tall white oak on the property. With guidance from the Olmsted firm, a dividing line, shown here in red, following the topography of the land, was established between Homewood campus and the proposed park. The Olmsted's first design for the park can be seen in this 1902 drawing, oriented with north to the right. Curving carriage roads meander through the park and frame the edges of the Homewood campus to the west and south, shaping what is to become Wyman Park Dell. The park is not yet extended south to the Jones Falls or much beyond the Ma and Pa Railroad to the west. The Olmsteds were still working out how to provide a road connection to Druid Hill Park to the south, as well as to the growing Roland Park community to the north. The route taking the form of a sinuous tree-lined road, which then jogs northward. The grid from the city is assumed to be continuing, although not resolved past the precursor to University Parkway, Merriman's Lane, which is no more than a narrow country road at this time. Sorry. Yeah, juggling too many balls. Okay, by 1903, this plan was in the 1904 report, but it was dated 1903. They still had not fully worked out the connection to Druid Hill. Wyman Park Drive is not yet planned on the west side of the University Marine Hospital, which was rebuilt in 1934 and now houses Hopkins programs. And instead, a proposed viaduct extends from 30th Street to a traffic circle worthy of any you'd see in Washington, D.C. The roadway running up the valley floor now extends past University Parkway, or Merriman's Lane at that time, as a possible route to Roland Park, as well as a gently curving road along the western edge with Hamden. The Olmsteds recommended more land be added to the park to the south and to the west of the Ma and Pa line. The Dell still shows some running through it, and a suggestion of a curvilinear connection to the parklands to the east. So east of here would have been Clifton Park as well as Herring Run. By 1906, Parker and Thomas architects were proposing a campus design that canted the quads to avoid the Homewood house, the original county home of Charles Carroll Jr., and allowed the greatest length of quad area. And here it is in an illustration above. The Johns Hopkins trustees, however, preferred a plan proposed by a design team that included the Olmsteds, which downsized the campus quads and created and oriented the quads to the street grid, creating a grand axis between 33rd Street and Gilman Hall, the first major university building to be completed. It's right there.
This original 8-foot long exhibit drawing in our FMOPL archives details the location of trees, paths, and meadows envisioned for the Wyman Park and Dell. Sumwell's Run was buried to create a lower meadow in the Dell, framed by original wooded slopes. Though a stream valley reserve, the larger Wyman Park section is similarly designed to have lower meadows and tree-lined slopes with curvilinear walkways throughout and a proposed lake near University Parkway. University Parkway and Charles Street were envisioned as wide tree-lined boulevards. Wyman Park Drive was designed to connect to Druid Hill Park. The Olmsteds did extensive planning for Wyman Park Dell, designing walks and plantings to construct a highly naturalized landscape with the existing tall tree canopy of Native American beeches and oaks. The Dell's floor was raised by burying Cited Run in an 8-foot culvert. The center trees in the original plan at the top of this slide show trees, but those were later removed to create the large flat lawn we enjoy today. The Charles Street side was planted with trees and bushes to complete the enclosed pastoral space, as shown in this slide today. Wyman Park Dell was the genesis for creating the Friends of Maryland's Olmsted Parks and Landscapes in 1986. The park design remains intact today with its original slopes, pathways, and stairs. Since 1983, the Friends of Wyman Park Dell have worked to deal with drainage issues and eroding slopes, but keeping the vistas into and out of the park from the surrounding streets. FLO Jr., Rick, selected the best site for the Baltimore Museum of Art's permanent home in 1926. The BMA design centers on Wyman Park Dell. The 7-acre gift from Hopkins trustees required major modifications to the Wyman estate topography to create Art Museum Drive with tall granite walls and stairs into the dell near Charles Street to enable direct access into the park.
The Stony Run Valley was a critical connection between the large residential developments north of the city. This Roland Park Company map, circa around 1915, shows the Roland Park residential district expanded to include Guilford, a large swath of land in comparison to the dense city fabric. The land had filled out to the east and west and was expanding north after construction of substantial bridges across the Jones Falls Valley. The Olmsteds helped in the development of the road system around the university Homewood campus. They advocated for parkways as extensions of parks to bring them to the people. One such example is this stretch of University Parkway connecting to Roland Avenue, which would be here on the left, with this huge curving transfer parkway. The 1907 Olmsted planting plan shows a park-like setting wide enough to accommodate the connections between the high and low roadways, with a streetcar line running along one side, whose trolley stop right here, shelter can still be seen today. And so this, it's, one sec, hold on, my thing skipped. Okay, good. This topographic map here, this plan from 1914, shows these green connections best with the transverse University Parkway piece up here on the upper left. 39th Street Parkway, you can make out here to the north of the park, and it connects over to Guilford, which has the St. Paul Street Parkway connecting down to Charles Street, which connects to the university, which connects to 33rd Street out to Herring Run and Clifton Park. So the Olmsteds were really big about trying to connect everything and tie it together to create a system. let's see. So where Charles Street connected to University Parkway, right here, the Olmsteds created Bishop Park, which is in this 1906, 1915 plan. And these are the boulevards they created for Charles Street in 1908. So other features that are really, you can read that Olmsted had a big part in is the San Martin Drive in particular. It's one of the places I always go whenever I want to cut through the city and get over north. San Martin Drive is one of the most scenic parkways and completely an Olmstedian creation, laid out to work with the existing topography and to save major trees. It weaves in and around the woods, and one does not even realize that over one portion, they are actually traveling on a curved stone bridge built over a tributary to the Stony Run. At first, only wood posts edged the roadway, protecting drivers from the steep embankments. But during the Depression, federal public works relief program funds were allocated to build the stone walls that we see today. San Martin Drive is so another one of their parkways is Wyman Park Drive, which provided a means to Druid Hill. And so it connects over to Keswick here, and then what was the Cedar Avenue Bridge. It passed under Huntington Avenue Viaduct via a steel arch that was added in 1907. And you can see the little wood posts along the roadway that were there before the stones were put in. To cross the stream bed, the Olmsteds recommended a bridge to span the narrowest portion of the ravine at about 150 feet. The results are an exceptionally graceful concrete arch bridge, as can be seen in this 1904 colorized postcard with a Huntington Avenue Viaduct behind. We believe the bridge was designed by C.B. Clark, a Johns Hopkins University graduate who designed and built arch span bridges nationally. Here you can see the walking trail that now occupies a Ma and Pa right-of-way bed. The University Parkway Bridge, completed in 1908, finally resolved the route to Roland Park and the developments north. When the Olmsted surveyed the land in 1905, Merriman's Lane had only a steel trestle bridge over Stony Run, not wide enough for vehicles, trolleys, and pedestrians. They were instrumental in the look of the replacement bridge, advocating that the city engineer improve upon its architectural beauty, since the thoroughfare was an approach to the park and not wishing the design to appear, quote unquote, weak. Eventually, Wyatt and Nolting architects were hired to elevate the design, as can be seen in one of their elevation drawings here.
The progressive 1926 Olmsted Report recognized the critical needs of the city to address its rapid growth in anticipation of 1 million residents by 1950. In 1900, Baltimore was the 6th largest US city with a population of over 500,000, and by 1920 had grown to over 733,000 residents, which was the impetus for this report. In the 1910s, Baltimore was the national leader for the playground and recreation development. Playgrounds and local parks would bring recreation opportunities to row house neighborhoods, and parkland would be added to the stream valleys to reach the expanded city, the final boundaries established in 1918.
The 1926 report, and this is a drawing from that report of the Stony Run Valley. And the recommendation was to purchase 33 acres to complete the linear park from University Parkway on this side to Lake Avenue on this side. and providing a roadway to run along the side. Only Linkwood Road between University Parkway and Cold Spring Lane was ever completed. To create Linkwood Road, the Linear Park landowners such as Clyde Frizz, and this is a drawing that was in the Olmsted files, outline who owned what along the park stream. But landowners such as Clyde Frizz and John Garrett were convinced to contribute pieces of their property for the increased land values created by the road access and park frontage. Olmsted's 1905 survey photo here, and this is taken from what would be the University Parkway Bridge looking north, shows the scrappy landscape before architect Clyde Frizz graced it with his Tuscany apartments and gardens, shown here in the 1918 photo with Stony Run in the foreground. The Tuscany, along with other apartments he designed, are seen here in this 1926 aerial, with Tuscany Road being constructed to connect with the top of Linkwood Road, the south end not yet having been, was still in design. This 1925 drawing discovered in the Olmsted archives shows the proposed road cutting across the meandering stream, as well as a garden feature. The Olmsteds designed to sweet talk Frizz into giving up some of his land. So they actually designed this component. And it was built. I have learned since the owners of this property said, yes, at one point it existed, but it no longer does today. Okay, so now we're sort of turning on what has happened since the park was realized. When Ma Railroad discontinued in the 1950s, mid-1950s, the rail bed provided an ideal level walking trail, but the plan for the upper Stony Run was never fully realized, much past Winehurst Avenue. The lower Stony, this is a 1941 map. The Olmsteds were still recommending the acquisition of the land, where now there are parking lots and fields that butt up right next to the stream or pave over the Ma and Pa right away. The lower Stony Run has not fared much better with the campus expansion of Johns Hopkins University, which attempted to acquire the top half of Wyman Park in 1961 and 1970 and 1985. Due to community outcry, they were only able to acquire between the Stony Run and San Martin Drive, which has accommodated several building projects since then. So then the other thing is Stony Run's connection to the Jones Falls, which is down this side, has been lost, completely lost, as because it is buried under landfill. You can see here it going into a culvert. Basically, about here is where it hits the culvert from above. According to this 1974 Sun article, they were using basically the demolition debris from all their active rebuilding of the downtown Baltimore and their ambitious downtown rebuilding program. And they said that it took about 4 months to fill the ravine at a rate of approximately 1,500 cubic yards a day. This is what makes Wyman Park Dell so precious. It is one of the few fully realized Olmsted designs in Baltimore today.
Established in 2011, the Friends of Stony Run brings together 15 communities along the stream to focus on flooding issues and maintaining and enhancing the parkland and green spaces. The walking path follows the Ma and Pa railbed and is still a work in progress but was greatly enhanced when a few years ago, these two pedestrian bridges were added off of Linkwood Road so that people could walk the whole length without being able to cross over the path. Oh, I'm sorry, over the stream. A great addition was in 2018 when Hopkins built the Willard Hackman bridge and walkway that parallels San Martin Drive. The upper Stony Run is a joy in all seasons. Wyman Park Dell has in 2010 a very significant addition was the dry stone wall that was created by the Dry Stone Conservancy in Lexington, Kentucky. The Friends of the Dell continue to work diligently to maintain the space. In 2010, or well, about 10 years ago, when Charles Street was reconstructed, the southeast corner of the Dell by Charles and 29th was reconfigured to add as a plaza space to maintain the original design and make Charles Street have a true turn, right angle turn onto 29th Street. In 2018, the upper southwest section of the Dell was officially dedicated as the Harriet Tubman Grove. The Friends are working on the west side of the park to bring it into more active use and to give it easier pedestrian access.
So that completes our talk, and we might have a few moments for questions posted to the chat. These links to resources on the Olmsted firm and area parks will be posted to the chat as well, if they have not been already. And you can find out how to obtain the 1904 and 1926 reports, as well as pamphlets about the Olmsted's efforts in Baltimore on the Friends of Maryland Olmsted Parks and Landscapes website. Jennifer, can you share any questions that are posed?
Yeah, just one that's directly related to Olmsted's. Do you think the Olmsted plan to connect the green spaces was ever successful, and what would make it successful today? That may be a talk unto itself here, huh?
Oh, I think it's it's still more than 100 years old, work in progress. So many of the connections that are needed are still not quite there. So it's a work in progress.
But I mean, I would have to say there are still elements. I mean, you can go out Glens Falls Parkway, there, 33rd Street. There are elements of it all over, and you don't even realize it. I mean, you have no idea that this tree-lined street was thought about and was connecting things, that it had a purpose other than just being placed there. So it would be good to have a comprehensive approach in the future, so that when tree plantings and things like that are done, that can be felt again. I mean, I know for the issue with the Wyman Park and the Dell is that connection between the two, which they tried to make very strong, has sort of been a little lost. There's not as much tree planting. I think Hopkins really wants to sort of like connect over to what was the Marine Hospital, because that's now part of their campus. And so I don't know how much they want to sort of make that a separate little entity to connect to parklands, but that was the nature of how those things flowed together.
That actually will be happening in the construction of the new piano designed institute,
Ah,
I'm forgetting the name, the Agora Institute.
wonderful.
That will be coming shortly.
Well, and I do have to say that it's kudos to Hopkins for, you know, keeping that San Martin Drive, because it is certainly not the most, I mean, I'm sure over time, there have been many times when people will want to straighten the thing because that's how, you know, traffic people think, you know, like make it safe, but they have not, and they've enhanced it and they've created areas for people to walk and at some considerable expense. And it's really wonderful that they have seen that as an asset to their campus.
There's some interest in potentially having a tour in person of the Stony Run this spring. So keep that in mind. I'm sure that that's something that could be arranged. And some interest in the Q&A. We probably don't have time to get into this, but some interest in things like the history of Bishop's Park, and some interest in conversations around the racial history of these spaces and the interplay. So these are all topics that might be very interesting for future conversations. I'm not sure, Nathan, you can let me know if we have time to get into any of these other conversations here.
I'd say let's do one more question.
One more question. Okay. Let's see. I'm going to pick one here that could be actually addressed here. There was some questions in the chat about the art museum and the original intent of the space. The 1914 map shows that area in a different color. And it was just questioned, you know, was there a different vision for that space, or is that indicating something particular with the art museum?
I think that space, I mean, it evolved. It was a major topographical challenge. If you go to the corner of Charles and Art Museum Drive, you see the original Wyman Estate gatehouse, and you can see how low it is. The sculpture garden is in essence a dell unto itself. So dealing with the topography was a major challenge, and why Art Museum Drive became what it is today.
And Sandy, wasn't the art museum, wasn't there some caveat that Hopkins had to provide space for that?
Well, it was a gift of 7 acres from that south edge of the campus. So it wouldn't, the museum would not be there today if it hadn't been gifted by the trustees.
And one quick question, are there any plans to provide access from the ball field area to the south end of the walking trail, which is less steep than the current access? I think looking at some of that.
For the Stony Run path, yes, that's in the works. It's planned. It just hasn't been constructed yet. So we have the path also is a work in progress, and much of the lower Stony Run, the path is not in good shape. It needs a lot of work.
One other question here, this might be our last one. What was the year when the playground was built at that corner? That was a more recent development along with the plaza area.
Oh, there's always been a playground.
Okay.
That was about I've lived in Charles Village since 1966. There's always been a playground at that corner in modern times. But this latest playground is now about 15 years old. And anyone who's worked on playgrounds knows that they continuously need to be rebuilt, and different criteria for a healthy and safe playground have evolved over time and are requisite for new playgrounds.
Yeah, I just want to say that if people have a real interest both in being part of these, enhancing these spaces and making them work. I mean, they have two very active friends groups that are just wonderful. And then if people are interested in what Olmsteds have done for the city, the Friends of Maryland Olmsted Parks is actually a great organization to be a part of. And what the national group has done, so we now have the archives, the Olmsted archives, they put it all on Flickr. I mean, literally you can see all these maps and drawings, and it's just amazing. And that's what was in the link. So make sure you copy those links before you get off if you're interested, because it is just it's so delightful that in the old days we used to have to travel up to Brookline and actually have them, bring out drawings and, dusty things and know what you were looking for. And now you could just scan through, and it's fascinating.
Yeah, and I would like to thank Jillian for her incredible mining of resources to be able to present all the drawings and many of the photographs today.
All right. We appreciate all the active participation in the questions. Wish we could get to a few more, but obviously have lots of material for future sessions. So appreciate everybody participating.
And Jennifer, be sure to tell folks, we have another talk scheduled on Olmsted's on Patterson Park in April.
Correct.
So
April
virtual
19th.
history.
Yep. So join us. We'll keep talking about all of this and have more opportunities to connect.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.